Other person who's in the news this week as an obvious contender for the nomination is Gavin Newsom, who went on Sean Ryan's podcast and absolutely dissembled over the question of transition procedures and surgeries on minors as young as 8.
Gavin Newsom is the kind of politician who thinks leadership is measured by how much hair gel he can use in a single day. To him, California isn't a state. It's a stage where he plays the role of America's most glamorous governor. But Megyn Kelly has had enough of the show, and she tears into his polished image, exposing a man who treats disaster like an accessory and incompetence like a brand. Newsom speaks as if he's a visionary, but Kelly makes it clear he's more of a salesman. Smooth, confident, and selling a product that falls apart the moment it's out of the box.
So he went from people who liked Gavin Newsom, liberals, saying, I have a very favorable opinion of him. At 46%, it fell to 30%. So Charlie's correct. He's hurting himself with his liberal base by doing these interviews of people like Charlie and Steve and Michael Savage. It's because the thing about Gavin Newsom is he's not very good at pushing back. So he's not going in there and doing battle with the Charlies and the Bannons of the world. He's somewhat obsequious to...
Kelly doesn't stop at the surface. She goes straight into the contradiction that is Gavin Newsom. He parades as a progressive savior, while overseeing one of the biggest exoduses of citizens and businesses in modern American history. Silicon Valley billionaires, middle-class families, even small-town mom-and-pop shops are all rushing out of California like it's a sinking cruise ship. And why? Because under Newsom's so-called leadership, taxes keep climbing, regulations keep piling up, and the basic quality of life keeps getting worse. Kelly paints the picture of a governor who couldn't run a lemonade stand, let alone the 5th largest economy in the world.
Over the last few years, I'm trying to understand as much as anyone else, whole pronoun thing, trying to understand all of that. Well, that was like the hell, all that stuff. I get it.
Oh my God. First of all, his hands are flailing. He gets so nervous and he can't stop moving his hands, right? It's to tell I'm uncomfortable and I'm probably lying too. Hands above the midline moving can be.
If you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Then there's Gavin Newsom's obsession with optics, because he doesn't really govern, he poses. The man could be standing in the middle of a wildfire, with smoke filling the air, and he'd still stop to make sure the cameras capture his best angle. Kelly rips into that vanity, pointing out that while Californians are struggling to keep the lights on and the streets safe, their governor is busy polishing his image for a White House run he pretends isn't happening. He insists he's dedicated to California. But Kelly calls out the obvious truth, that he's rehearsing for the national stage and using the chaos in his state as a springboard.
Said that the snippets harmed their perception of the governor. So in other words, 26% overall said it harmed their perception of him. And among liberals, 37% said it harmed my perception of the governor. Among those who have very favorable opinions of Gavin Newsom, he lost 6.
She reminds everyone that this isn't just about mismanagement. It's about hypocrisy. Newsom tells Californians to mask up, shut down, and sacrifice for the greater good, but then sneaks off to one of the most exclusive restaurants in the country during the height of restrictions. The infamous French Laundry scandal wasn't just a mistake. It was a glimpse into who Newsom really is. To him, the rules are for everyone else, and California is his kingdom where he plays the slick-haired prince enjoying luxuries while his people suffer. Kelly exposes that hypocrisy with sharp precision, reminding viewers that leadership isn't about ordering people around. It's about setting the example.
Smart to start this. And the reason he's smart to start it is because he has no muscles, Emily. None. He's a sinewy little weakling when it comes to arguing any of these issues, especially cultural issues, because he, like all liberals, has never had to do it. So now he's trying to get his training, which is smart on his part, and it would be smart on the part of conservatives to say no, because they declined to help him get in shape before the big bout. We're supposed to be helping Rocky, not Drago.
But Kelly doesn't stop there. She digs into how Newsom uses progressive slogans as weapons, while doing almost nothing to fix the crises tearing through California's communities. Homelessness has exploded under his watch, with tent cities spreading across sidewalks that once were thriving neighborhoods, streets littered with needles, and crime running out of control, leaving residents in fear. And what does Newsom do? He throws money at the problem like confetti at a parade, then strikes poses for photo ops to prove how much he cares. Kelly exposes the truth that his solutions are nothing more than stagecraft, expensive smoke, and mirrors meant to distract from the fact that nothing is actually improving.
Come on, man. I mean, I get it. Those are legit, period. The issue of age, and as someone who's been so focused on LGBT and gay marriage, the trans thing, I just like, I've been thinking about the pronouns. Yeah. That's how he answered that question, Rich. Are you okay with surgical procedures on an 8-year-old?
And when confronted with failure, Newsom doesn't admit it, he deflects. Kelly calls him out for constantly shifting blame, pointing fingers at Republicans, at Washington, at climate change, at anything other than himself. Every leader faces challenges, but Newsom has turned excuses into an art form. California wildfires, climate change, businesses leaving, greedy corporations, the housing crisis, national economic trends, nothing is ever his fault. Because in Gavin Newsom's world, he's always the misunderstood genius whose brilliance is sabotaged by forces beyond his control. Kelly tears apart that narrative, reminding people that leaders don't get to outsource responsibility. And if you can't handle the pressure, you shouldn't take the job. And then there's the arrogance, as Newsom struts on TV with the smugness of a man who thinks he's auditioning for the presidency, and in many ways, he is. He downplays it, acts coy about it, but Kelly points out the obvious, that his entire act is designed to make him the Democratic Party's backup plan.
Very strange, because when you listen to him, you would think like he's a moderate, but he's not. On the trans stuff and virtually every other subject, he is as radical as they come. He is another Kamala Harris. But there's something about him, maybe he's a people pleaser, a vintage politician. When he gets across from these are our war fighters. And truly, like the three I mentioned, these are war.
He knows President Trump is running the country with strength, and he knows the Democratic bench is weak, so he positions himself as the polished alternative, the guy who looks like he belongs in a magazine spread. But Kelly dismantles that fantasy, making it clear that America doesn't need another pretty face. It needs a leader who actually delivers results. Megyn Kelly has a knack for cutting through political fluff, and with Newsom, there's no shortage of fluff to cut. She highlights how his speeches are filled with buzzwords and platitudes that sound inspiring, but lead to nothing real. He talks about equity, about transformation, about bold vision, but when it's time to execute, all California gets are higher taxes, broken promises, and more people packing U-Hauls. Kelly drives home the point that leadership is results, not rhetoric. And in Newsom's case, the results are catastrophic. What makes her dismantling so brutal is that she doesn't just hit Newsom for his failures. She makes him look ridiculous, painting the picture of a governor who treats California like his personal Instagram backdrop, with wildfires raging as the moment for a heroic photo op and homeless encampments spreading as the cue for another speech about compassion.
We have in California is these mealy-mouthed, kale-eating, broccoli-pushing, Birkstock, whatever, wearing politicians who can't find another person fast enough to blame. My absolute favorite, though, is the fire chief. She's growing on me. When she's not focusing on her lesbianism, she's actually quite fierce. She is not going down without bringing Mayor Karen Bass with her. And who could blame her?
Business is collapsing, so he rolls out a plan with a fancy name and zero results. Because Newsom governs like a man who thinks politics is theater, and Kelly rips the curtain down to reveal the dysfunction behind the scenes. While Newsom polishes his national brand, his own citizens are voting with their feet, and Kelly makes it clear that the migration out of California isn't just a statistic, it's a verdict. Families, workers, entrepreneurs, they've all lost faith in their governor, seeing through the gloss, the platitudes, and the endless press conferences, and Kelly ensures the rest of the country sees it too. Because Newsom's ambitions don't end in Sacramento, he's aiming higher. But Kelly makes sure that when he tries to step onto the national stage, his record will follow him like a shadow he can't escape. Gavin Newsom built his reputation on being the slickest man in the room, the one who could smile while the walls crumbled and still convince half the audience that the disaster was part of the plan. But Megyn Kelly wasn't about to let that slide. She cut straight into the heart of his carefully polished brand, showing that he's not a leader at all, but an actor auditioning for the role of governor, and somehow keeping the part despite failing every single audition test.
He would be so measured, and you're going to have that flailer with the hands and the stuttering and the come on, man, pulling the Joe Biden, come on, man. It didn't work for Biden, and it's not going to work for Newsom. Like, I'm just seeing the runway of how the Republicans' chances are going to look, and right now I'm feeling good. Not necessarily about the midterms, but about the presidential race. Here's another thing. It's a little off point on the trans issue, but a great moment where Sean asked Gavin Newsom about why they were so able to very quickly clean up the city of San Francisco when Chinese President Xi Jinping came in 2020.
California under Newsom has become the biggest contradiction in America. The land of dreams turned into the land of tents, needles, and boarded-up storefronts, and Megyn Kelly knows exactly why. Newsom is far more focused on posturing for the national stage than on fixing the fires burning in his own backyard. He parades around as if he's destined for higher office. But the reality is, he can't even handle the one he already has. It's like watching a man brag about running a marathon when he can't make it past his own driveway. Kelly wasted no time tearing into his obsession with appearances, because everything about Newsom screams image management, from the slicked back hair that looks like it's been dipped in motor oil to the way he speaks in perfectly rehearsed sound bites that say absolutely nothing. He's the human version of a glossy magazine cover, attractive on the outside but hollow on the inside. And Kelly's roast cut deep by showing that California doesn't need a model, it needs a manager. And Newsom doesn't manage, he performs. Take the homelessness crisis, where California spends billions every year to solve it, and yet the tents multiply faster than campaign flyers in an election year.
Annoyed after, we ended our show on Thursday, was it? I don't know, was it Thursday or Friday? About what's happening with the biological males out there. And this A.B. Hernandez, who is winning all the girls' medals, Hernandez. And I just did like a personal plea to people and got a lot of great feedback on it. So thank you for watching that. But then I took it to Twitter, and on X, I addressed Gavin Newsom personally. He follows me, so I tagged him. And I'm going to be honest, I begged him to please stop this for all the reasons stated on our YouTube feed. And he didn't get back to me. But I think
Kelly hammered this point by showing how Newsom uses the issue as a way to virtue signal instead of finding real solutions, cutting a ribbon, giving a speech, and walking away while the crisis only gets worse. It's not governance, it's theater. And when the curtain falls, the streets are still filled with misery, while the governor congratulates himself for his performance. Then there's the economy, where businesses aren't just leaving California, they're sprinting out like they're escaping a natural disaster. Tesla, Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, giants that once called the Golden State home, are now setting up elsewhere. And Kelly ripped into Newsom for acting surprised every time a company leaves, as if high taxes, suffocating regulations, and crime-ridden downtowns haven't been flashing warning signs for years. She painted him as the clueless landlord who raises rent every year, ignores the mold on the walls, and then can't believe it when the tenants finally pack their bags. But perhaps the sharpest edge of Kelly's roast came when she tore into his hypocrisy, reminding people how Newsom locked California down so hard that kids couldn't go to school, businesses were shuttered, and restrictions tore families apart, all while he felt free to break the very rules he enforced.
He feels the need to get their approval. That's how it feels. And he's getting excoriated by the left-wing press as a result. It's actually kind of amusing. We put together a budded soundbite. Take a listen here.
I thought that was one of the most inauthentic things I have seen Gavin Newsom do.
Wow.
I'm terribly,
so you don't believe in the let them hang themselves theory?
No, I'm terribly disappointed. I think you meet energy with energy. And what he did was he showed his pretty white teeth and his cute face and did nothing other than that. And I think
And yet, while everyone else was told to sacrifice, the governor himself was spotted dining maskless at the French Laundry, sipping wine in luxury as if the rules didn't apply to him. Kelly called it exactly what it was, not just arrogance, but contempt for the very people he claims to represent, and proof that in Newsom's California there's one rule book for the people and another for the king. Kelly didn't stop at his failures. She went after his ambitions too, pointing out how Gavin Newsom has made it painfully clear that he's trying to position himself for the White House. He takes shots at national issues, poses as the anti-Trump, and pretends that his crumbling state is actually some kind of progressive paradise. But Kelly's dismantling of this delusion was brutal. She made it clear that if Newsom can't handle California, a state with more wealth and resources than most countries, then the idea of him running the presidency is laughable, because why promote a man who can't keep his own house in order? And that's exactly how she framed him. As a man in love with his reflection, blind to the disaster behind him, with California's energy grid failing every summer, crime rates soaring, and public schools collapsing, while Newsom's only concern is whether the lighting looks good for his next interview.
We hear a lot about San Francisco and the homelessness and pooping on the road and all that kind of stuff, and it seemed like all of that was cleaned up when Xi came to town.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Complete bullshit.
That's complete bullshit.
I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true.
I got to credit Morning Wire, my pals over the Morning Wire who put that together. Such a good...
Kelly mocked his obsession with national media attention by painting him as the guy who's always at the party, but never actually helped set up a single chair. Her roast also dug into the growing resentment inside California itself, where residents who once believed in the promise of the state are leaving in droves, and middle-class families, the backbone of any state, can no longer afford to stay. The dream is gone, and all that's left is a governor trying to convince everyone that the nightmare is just a temporary inconvenience. Kelly stripped away his excuses and made it clear that California is not a victim of fate. It's a victim of Gavin Newsom's vanity. The beauty of her takedown was that it wasn't just about California. It was about the pattern of leadership he represents, the kind where politicians care more about cameras than citizens, and treat their position as a launchpad instead of a responsibility. Newsom is the poster child for empty leadership, and Kelly lit that poster on fire. She didn't just destroy Gavin Newsom's record, she destroyed his myth. The myth that he's a bold progressive leader, the myth that he's ready for the national stage, and the myth that his failures are somehow noble struggles instead of calculated negligence. By the time she was done, Newsom was no longer the slick, untouchable figure he imagines himself to be, but just another failed governor, with great hair and nothing else to offer.